get to meet your own LinkedIn connections, or you made new LinkedIn connections. You connect, you communicate, and you collaborate. There's a lot of learning and leveraging that happens in these interactions. The whole idea is to bring the community together and do these specialized events, physical or webinar in today's day and age, which are highly focused and themed. So for April, we have the theme of career challenges during COVID, as Vivek rightly mentioned. Today, the sub-theme is finding jobs in these different times. The next week, it will be financial planning during COVID-19. And the week after, in April, the last week of April, will be getting prepared for a post-COVID world. So this is what it is. This is what LinkedIn Local is all about. Thank you and welcome once again. And let's start the proceeding. Let's get the day going. Thank you.
Can I ask Amit to just very briefly introduce yourself for the benefit of new people who have joined us?
Hi everyone, this is Colonel Amit. I'm a veteran. I retired last year and I've been associated with LinkedIn Local India since August, and it's my way of getting back to the community with the best that we can provide to people who are looking for jobs and for career transition, and more so is for advice from the right people, because before you can make decisions you need the right advice, and for that you're in the right place.
Thank you, Amit. Moving forward, I would like to briefly introduce the panel. Among us, we have Jitender Panihar. Jitender is the Global Head People and Culture at MoEngage, and he is based out of Bangalore. Jitender, if you could just raise your hand for the benefit of everybody. Great, thank you. Then we have Aditya Singh. Aditya is the Head Talent Acquisition at Informatica, India. He is also based out of Bangalore. Welcome, Aditya. We have Mr. Mohan Kumar. He is the Talent Acquisition Programs Leader, Assessment, Contingent Workforce, University Recruiting at Intuit, and he is also based out of Bangalore. Welcome, Mohan. Then we have Mr. Sarabjeet Sachar. Mr. Sachar is the founder and CEO of Aspiration, a job assistance firm based in Mumbai, and he is very popular in the work he does. Welcome, Mr. Sachar.
Thank you.
Then we have, Mr. Sachar is based out of Mumbai. Then we have Shruti Swaroop. Shruti is the founder of Embrace, and she is a champion of diversity and inclusion, and is also an executive coach, and she is based out of Gurgaon. Preeti, over to you.
Right. So with the introductions underway, I would like to introduce the topic of today, which is finding jobs in these different and difficult circumstances. And I would like to invite the panel for their views, along with adding maybe one of your own personal hopes and fears when we do come out of these, 21 plus 20 sort of, locked in days. And what do you see will be the major change? What do you fear most? What do you hope for most? And more than that, what is the kind of challenge and what needs to be done or undone to find jobs during this scenario? So Sarabjeet, I will start with you. Please, could you share some light on this? Thank you.
Sure. Thank you, Preeti. Thank you, Vivek. Thanks. I'll just share. I was just coaching a very senior professional last week, and he said that, I've been applying for jobs, but I've not been getting any interview calls or any response. I said, how many did you apply? He said, I've made 100 applications. How many responses? 2. Now, this is something which is a very common scenario. And let me share with you what I did with him in terms of a quick review. And I realized that there were 9 areas of, I wouldn't say mistakes, but there were areas that he needed to improve upon. Because when I asked him, do you have a job search strategy? He said, he was a bit surprised. You actually need to have a strategy for job search, which most of the professionals don't. So let me share with you what were the 9 areas that I pointed out to him after doing a review about what he was making as an attempt to get a job. 1, there was no target list. Now, if you don't have a target list of employers, it's very difficult for you to even make a beginning. But most people don't, because it's very important for you to know who you need to target. So you need to have a list. Second, core area of expertise. Now, if you don't position yourself, if you don't have a branding for yourself that What do you stand for? How would recruiters or employers know that, what should I reach out to this candidate for? Very important. Transferable skills, extremely critical. Today, I would say that when maybe out of this slowdown, when there will be many people who will want to shift their industry within the same domain or maybe in a different domain, transferable skills will be important. What I realized when I asked him what are the transferable skills, he could come up with something like communication, persuasion, negotiation, these kind of skills. Transferable skills are multiple. Today, what is required in the transferable skills is learning, adaptability, flexibility, working under pressure, organizing, so many other things. Now, if you are having your transferable skills in place, I can assure you that you will be able to differentiate yourself and widen your job search to many other options. Then came research. I said, what kind of research you do? Most of the times the research that is done is very cursory. So you go to a Google, you go to the company website and start doing some bit of homework. Now, my suggestion and advice always has been that you have to do research which is with humans, real-time research. Go to the vendor, go to the customer, go to the retailer, go to the call center, talk to the employees, all these guys, because you have to become an important candidate who can find out the business pain point. You have to become an expert in that, because without knowing the business pain point of that job, you will not succeed in even making an application. So why make an application? You have to do research before that. LinkedIn profile, very important. So when I analyzed it, I saw that it was just a statement of facts. There was no branding, there was no individuality. None of those elements which are so important for positioning you were missing completely in his LinkedIn profile. Networking. There was no networking. When I asked him, how do you network? He said, yeah, I use LinkedIn, but I just keep on sending LinkedIn invites. And I keep applying to people who accept my invitation. Now, that's not going to get you result, because the recruiter really wants to know how good are you at a solution finding ability level, not somebody who's just looking for a job. So there is a nurturing of relationships, value adding to relationships. All those things have to be done in terms of networking. Then there is the resume. Now, when I analyzed the resume, I found that it was only responsibility driven. There was no achievement orientation. Neither was there any kind of measurable outcome. So if the resume doesn't speak about what you have achieved, it does not attract the recruiter or the hiring manager. He is not interested in knowing what you're handling, but what you have done. That's what you will be hired for. Pitch letter, which is a cover letter, where generally you talk about yourself, your background, and then attach your resume and send it. Whereas a pitch letter is something where you address the pain point, just mention very, very crisply that this is what I have got experience in solving, and I've done my research and understand that, and then you attach your resume, because the pitch letter's purpose is to motivate the hiring manager to open your resume. That was missing. Preparation for interview. Now, most of the times there's no preparation done the way I would expect or I would advise in terms of really getting into the pain point understanding process and then going for the interview. For that, you've got to become as if you are already an employee. So these were the 9 things that we analyzed, which I think are common. Now, hope with this kind of a scenario, I think there is enough hope. If you ask me, jobs are still there and they are going to be there. Some companies are hiring even now. But assuming this period gets over, what's going to happen is that the same jobs will be competed by maybe multiple candidates. So the candidates are going to increase. And for that, you need to understand that you need to understand your unique talent. You need to understand what is good and specific about you and what are your transferable skills. Believe you me, if you are understanding your candidature and your uniqueness, you have immense amount of hope, because that nobody can take it away. And focus on your transferable skills. Is there something to be afraid of? Fearful? Yes. If you don't know how to market your talent, if you don't know how to market your candidature, then there will be a problem. So work on marketing your candidature and knowing yourself. That's what I would start with.
Thank you so much, Sarabjeet, for that. It's really insightful. I think that set the tone for the entire day today in terms of, what can be done even in these kind of circumstances. With that, I would come to Jitender, please, with the same question. Jitender, so what can be done? What to do, what not to do? And what do you fear most? And what is your hope that will happen at the end of this tunnel, so to speak? So all yours, Jitender.
Sure. Thanks, Preeti. So indeed, these are difficult times, right? And in such times, organizations tend to focus a lot on efficiency. And hence, people costs, hiring numbers, especially young folks at times, are at the receiving end. So it's a very, very pertinent question in terms of what we need to do or how do we navigate if we are at the receiving end or in such a situation. Mm-hmm. I feel difficult times or difficult problems, have simplest of solutions. Let me draw an analogy, with the field of cricket, to be able to answer it, because I feel commonsensical answers are something that, I love talking about. So I think there are a couple of things that, we need to do. The first and the foremost is stay focused and ready to put in a lot of hard work. Just like Test cricket, a batsman has to toil very, very hard for each and every run. Right. There's huge amount of concentration which is required. There's huge amount of focus which is required because someone is playing for a long inning. They are not playing for a T20 cricket. And that is what these times require, right? Because, ability to bat long and ability to win matches. So I would say ability to stay focused despite a lot of sledging around it, despite a lot of distractions, hard comments, hard things being said. I think it's all about ready to put in a lot of hard work while you stay focused. The second point that I want to talk about is invest in yourself, upskill yourself, and shine your skill. To give an example, in T20 format, a cricket ball is used for less than 25 overs. But if you look at Test cricket, a cricket ball is used for at least 80 overs. And if you have seen cricket, cricketers always keep on maintaining an old ball. They rub. They keep on shining the ball. The reason why they do that is they want to utilize the skill of bowling fast and bowling with a swing. That is what is required. Continue shining your own skill. Third is all about patience, temperament, and concentration. That's why people say that Test cricket is the hardest sport to ever play, in terms of the format. Because cricketers are always out there in scorching heat, tough conditions, humidity, sometimes fielding for about 2 to 3 consecutive days, which requires a lot of mental toughness. And that is what precisely these difficult times require. The fourth point I want to talk about is slightly different than this analogy, is the ability to look at your own finances. That is something, which we often do not take into cognizance. So plan your finances, look at the emergencies do you have, cut down on discretionary spends. It's not too very hard to live off basics. And the fourth, or probably, for the fifth last thing is look at your liabilities a little differently. You may have a lot of housing loans, you may have a lot of education, car loans, etc. These are times wherein, we have to start looking at our liabilities a little differently. So I would say, in order to look at, for difficult situations, having been, in the space myself as well, these are 5 most important things I feel, is required, which are more commonsensical in nature and simplest to act upon.
Thank you, Jitender. My personal takeaway from that is, mental toughness, shine your skills, be financially prudent, and don't give up. So thank you for that. With that, I would come to you, Shruti, to talk about the same things. Please share your views, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Preeti. Very good afternoon to all of you, and thank you so much for joining in, as all of us have already said. I'll quickly, without getting into much preamble, share a good news and a bad news. I don't know how many of you were able to read the April 2020 publication by International Monetary Fund. The bad news, which I'm going to start with first, is that, there's going to be a sharp decrease in the, by 3% in this year of the overall economic activity, which means this is the worst we have seen, worse than what we've seen in 2008, 2009, worse since the Great Depression of 1931. What does that mean? It means that this is unprecedented for all of us. What it means is that nobody living has ever been through this ever before. What this means is when we use the word unprecedented, it has a huge implication. So things are unraveling by the minute. The good news, though, is that the same article, the same publication says that if the efficacy of the containment measures that the many countries globally are taking proves right, then we will have a growth of 5.8% by the same time next year. Now, why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because all it means is that this will improve. So what we need to do right now is just focus on where we are right now, focus on understanding what our organization, the society needs from us right now, and what they will potentially need from us as this is over. So I would want to say to the leaders that, you may want to focus on reaching out for the managers and the leaders. You may want to focus on reaching out to your teams, the distributed workforce we have right now, ensure they are productive, ensure they are engaged. I would also want to reach out to the employees or people who are, anxious and uncertain right now. These are times of uncertainty. As I said, we haven't seen these before. So upskill yourself, understand what people may want from you, reach out to people, be empathetic. Everyone is going through it. It is not just you or me. This is a global thing. There's not a single person globally who's untouched by it. So understand, be empathetic to people. And Preeti asked a question about hope and fears, and I'd really like to talk about that. My hope is that at the end of this, we would have a world which is more empathetic and kind. Statistically, we've seen that the crime rates globally have come down. So I hope the world, and just hope that it turns out to be more happy at the end of all of this.
Thank you for that, Shruti. I think my takeaway from that would be to be more in touch with our human self, to be more, sympathetic and have more empathy about not just people, but everybody around us. So thank you very much for that. With that, I would come to you, please, Mohan, to shed some light onto the topic today and tell us what you exactly think is going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Preeti. Good afternoon, friends. These are unprecedented times. I don't think anyone in our generation or even our parents' generation have gone through anything like this, right? And it is testing every one of us in different ways, right? Be it in our personal lives or in our professional lives or our studying lives, everything. Now, the forum that we currently are in today, if we were to ask this set of people 3 weeks back, did they know how to do it? The answer would have been no, right? But I think 3 weeks has been time where people have really quickly adapted and started utilizing the resources in a different way. A lot of norms that existed earlier, which said that we have to do certain things in a certain way, have all been challenged, and many of them have been actually thrown out of the window, and we've started adapting to the new way of working, right? It's become the new normal today. The reason I'm saying this is, I think more than anywhere, any time else, I think adaptability becomes very, very key now, right? How quickly can you adapt and how quickly can you actually gel well with the new world that's emerging or the new way of thinking, etc. I think there are enough reports which are coming in which possibly point out to what this world could be after this whole episode ends. It's not a situation where we're going to go back and rub shoulders with our colleagues again in the near future. I think the world could be totally different. It could start emerging differently. We don't know what it is, right? And I think as my colleagues actually pointed out, now is not the time to actually zip up your resume and take a bunch of email IDs and send it out, right? Because I think that's not going to get us anywhere. I think now is the time for you to really understand what kind of organizations would be a good fit for your candidature. Research those organizations, right? Connect it to the craft you have. Make sure you're honing your craft on a regular basis, right? Get sharper and better. And I'm just repeating stuff again because it's relevant. Make sure that you're genuinely with people, right? And you're not, and again, connections doesn't mean that you connect with the recruiters. Today, hiring is seldom done only with recruiters, but through the entire world that exists in our corporate industry, right? I'll give you an example. There have been many instances where some students have actually showcased some work that they have done, which is a close match to something that's going on in my organization, and told an engineer that, hey, what do you think about this work? Now, the engineer was impressed with that and just forwarded that person's profile to me and said that when you think for interviews, maybe you want to just consider this individual. Now, doesn't mean that this automatically gets somebody a job, but at least it gets you a seat on the interview table or on the assessment table, right? I think what I'm trying to say here is that make sure you're identifying your matches, making sure that you're building your connections, show that genuinity, right? Demonstrate the value that you add to the organization, show your net worth, right? Also, make it easier to find you, right? You reach out to a recruiter, just remember that there are plenty of other people also reaching out to the same recruiter. How does the recruiter understand the value that you're bringing in? And also, I think we all need to understand that it's humanly not possible for a recruiter to be answering emails that keep coming in because there's a deluge of emails and connections that come in. But I think if there is somebody who's showing that value, it helps. And by value, I'm also talking about not only your skill set, but about how close a match you are from an organization. Today, organizations are driven by missions enabled by values. How much are we enabling your whole candidature to showcase how well you want to connect with that mission and how can you contribute to that mission that an organization is after? I think this builds connections, right? This strikes an emotional chord. I think today is a time where you have to look at building that emotional cord or connecting to that emotional cord in some way or the other, right? Now, I think the fear that we all have is that we don't know when this is going to end, right? I mean, all of us can speculate. We can say a few weeks, few months, few years. We don't know what it is. I think time will tell us. But I think we hope that it's not going to be so deep-pronged and so deep that it's something totally different. We don't know what it is, right? So I think that's a fear. But at the end of it, I think we all need to remember that there will still be jobs. There'll still be the economy to run. There'll still be new work to be done. After every depression, after every slowdown, we've come back stronger, right? When we looked at the whole web crash or whatever that was in the early 2000s, we come back and e-com companies are thriving today. I mean, just because the web organizations failed that time doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't exist today. E-com are thriving. There will be certain things which will come up. There'll be a certain set of industries which will catapult. Like, for example, Zoom. The amount of people that have adapted to Zoom in the last 3 weeks, I don't even think that expected that they will have it for the next 3 years projection, right? Maybe the 3 years projections has done good for them for three weeks. But at the same time, some other organization which had a projection for, say, the next 3 months, unfortunately may not realize it for the next 3 years. So there are different things which are emerging. Why I'm telling you this is start understanding sectors. Make sure that you are being informed of what's happening in the and outside. There are enough articles around. Read. Make sure that you're reading, imbibing information, and try to research. Build your own sense. Plus, hone your skills. There are a plethora of free courses, free books which are available. Harvard has just thrown out all of their courses for free. Make use of it. Build your credibility, build your skill set, and make sure that you are in a position to take advantage of the future that's going to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohan, for that. For me, I think the main takeaways here are work on yourself, don't lose hope, and network, network, network. Because right now is the time where we can actually build those relationships, showcase ourselves, which would, probably bear fruit maybe 2 or 3 weeks down the line. Before we get on to Aditya, I would quickly like to say something here for the benefit of all the attendees that are attending today. So people, this webinar is all about you. So we encourage you to please put in your questions, your specific questions to the specific panelists in the question and answer section below, in the app, in the status bar, there will be a Q&A section. Please write your crisp, concise questions there, along with the name of the speaker that you would like it to be addressed to. You have Sarabjeet here, who's from Aspiration Jobs. You have Jitender, who is from MoEngage. You have Mohan here, who's from Intuit. You have Aditya Singh, who's here from Informatica. And you have Shruti Swaroop, who is from Embrace. So please be specific, write those questions, because once Aditya, is done with sharing his views, this session will be all about only you. So we need to see those questions coming in. With that, Adi, may I request you to please shed some light onto the topic and add your 2 bits for the benefit of us all. Thank you.
Thanks, Preeti. I thought you'll never ask. So, on the lighter note, yeah. So I'll try not to repeat what my panel members have spoken about. I'm an optimist, so bear with me. There's a saying, when you hit the rock bottom, there's only one place to go. We have not hit the rock bottom as of now, so we'll go up. It's a matter of time. Some things which you need to make peace with is recruiting will be on hold now to a lot of places, or slow. So make peace with the fact that it will get delayed for a period of time, right? While the hiring managers are still scouting for talent, they would keep their important candidate list with them, because they know when the doors open, these are the few set of people whom they will be getting in touch with. So second flip side to this is, and I think so Sarabjeet also spoke about, is making sure that you're present on some of the social networking sites, right? Like LinkedIn and few other places, right? That means you need to be present and you need to be writing about the work which you've been doing. So if you're working on the UX side, you better be blogging about it so that you are there in the market and people see you speak about that. The other thing is people need to realize that interviews, which were predominantly your phone interviews, were first basic screening rounds, right? They will now slowly move towards doing more of two-way interviewing, right? The worst come to worst, earlier was one-way interview. The candidate is online and the panel is generally moving around in the room. The candidate can't see. So that mode will go away. It will have more two-way discussions. So please make peace with virtual discussions. That will become a way of life for you, right? Don't get consumed by stress, anxiety, or anything around you, right? Just shut it away for the period of time. It's a part of life. Accept it, move on. If you look at industries, there are a lot of industries, and I think if I'm not wrong, there's a question also on that. There are some of the industries which will see a growth, right? And there are people who would look to pivot into that area, right? Preeti asked about one hope. My hope is very simple, that we get back to moving at a faster rate, which we will, because if you look at the way India is moving in the right direction, irrespective of the other countries, we will recover faster as compared to other countries, right? I've seen some of those reports from IMF and few other places. They've only shown 2 countries with positive growth, which is China and India. By the way, we'll be doing better than China, by the way. So be aware of that fact. My only one fear is people not pivoting towards new, right? Your adaptability, Mohan talked about, your fungibility to learn new things. People need to understand that and take it with a pinch of salt, that this will be the new, right? You will have to be ready to move into doing something else, right? While you continue doing one work, you will also see if you want to pivot into something else. And the last thing is good time to self-reflect and see, what do you want to do, right? While we are all experts, end of the day, we also get inputs from everybody around us. So that's my quick input. Preeti didn't want to repeat everybody else.
Sure. Thank you for that, Aditya. And before we start the next section, here's another piece of information for the attendees, please. Our panel is very open and receptive to connecting with you over LinkedIn to dive deep into any of the topics or questions that you might have at the end of the session today. The only thing is you need to reach out to them with a personalized message, please, stating that you were present at this webinar. So then they would know that they are talking to the audience that they've addressed today, and they will be able to specifically guide you and talk to you in terms of whatever best can be made out of the situation at this point in time. So please look them up on LinkedIn, write a personalized note saying that you attended the LinkedIn Local India online webinar on April 15, and you would like to connect to further understand a few other points. So that's it for you attendees. And for the next session, I would hand over the baton back to Vivek. All yours, Vivek. Please go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Preeti. Wonderful points made by all the panelists. And, it is interesting to see different perspectives, the hopes and the fears. Our next session is Q&A. However, I am going to barge in and do something here. So we are going to have a new session, which our panelists are also not aware about. We are going to do something of very quick rapid fire by asking just 2 questions from each panelist. Since we are in a very serious topic, we thought it would be interesting to just barge in and create a couple of questions. These can be personal in nature, so please be prepared. And, I'm going to start. This is very quick, and just please answer whatever comes in your mind. So my first question is for Jitender. Jitender, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. What is one thing that you do from work, while work from home that your boss doesn't know about?
Okay, that my boss doesn't know about.
That's right.
Yeah, so for first time in my life, I've tried doing vertical push-ups and headstands, which no one in this world knows because I'm not a exercise guy.
Oh, that's wonderful. Interesting. Second question. What is your favorite time of the day?
Favorite time of the day?
Yeah.
Night time, which is post 10 p.m.
Okay, I'll not further ask any question on that.
That's when I get maximum time to myself and rewind and think about what all happened, and probably give a lot of time to my friends, families, and other people.
Vivek?
Ask Vivek, yeah.
Okay, never mind. So I'll pick that up from there. I'll take up the baton. So the next question is from you, Aditya. What's your dress code during work from home, Adi?
Yeah, that's a little personal, but you can know, yeah, while you can understand wearing the t-shirt, but more of shorts during the day. Yeah, that's where I don't want to get into details. But yeah.
Vivek, you can take the next question from Aditya yourself. Go ahead.
Aditya, here's the next question. What are your favorite time pass activities while you work from home? While you get free time between work from home?
I listen to a lot of podcasts actually.
Okay.
A lot
Sure.
of podcasts. So I feel that yes, relevant to the work which I do. So I listen to a lot of podcasts. I spend time. In fact, even walking, I listen to a lot of podcasts.
Interesting. Thank you very much. Preeti, over to you.
Thank you. So this brings us on to Shruti. Shruti, ready?
I think so.
Okay. Quarantine in one word.
Isolation.
Okay, fair enough. 2 learnings from while you're working from home. What is it? I mean, 2 most important learnings.
I think I just realized that I can do far more than what I think I could have. I think my 24 hours have suddenly become 48 hours. So yeah, that's been a good introspection and good point for me. I think the second learning is technology. I don't think I was as tech savvy as I have suddenly become in the last 20, 21, 22 days. I think it's just changed my level of acceptability to Zoom and WebEx and everything else. So,
Right. Thank you very much, Shruti. That brings me on to Mohan. Mohan, Netflix or running, please?
Netflix these days, break from running.
Okay, fair enough. And while you're working from home, what are the games that you are playing? Whether board game, whether on the internet, or whether with the kids, whatever it is. Just 2 games.
So I'm not a big gaming fan, but what I've been doing is bringing in gaming from a fitness standpoint. So I'm a cult member. Been missing those group classes, so we've created those mini group classes at home with my wife and son together doing a group class with a live instructor from cult. So that's what.
You know what? My friend Jitender Chokse is going to be really happy about that. If he is hearing this, or if somebody from CultFit is hearing this, there you go. There's a customer right here. So with that, I think I'll hand the baton on to Amit now, who can go ahead with the rest of the questions. Amit, all yours. I'm out of here.
Yeah. Sarabjeet, the next questions would be to you. Ready?
Yes.
Okay. The first question is, what do you miss most when you're working from home?
I miss the camaraderie, the team spirit, that motivation, that connection with the team. That is something which I miss very, very badly.
Okay. And any incident that jumps out at you when you've been in the lockdown now for 21 days, any incident that you would share with us?
Any incident, I've started dancing again, which I had actually given up. So I just kind of, shut the room, put on the music and just dance all alone. That is something which I was missing. So I've been doing that. And I think when I was doing it, both my son's wife, they also said, let him be. So that's where we are. I started dancing again.
Thank you.
Thank you. So before we move on to the next section, again, there's a kind reminder for the attendees. Please do write your questions into the question and answer box with the names of the speakers that you would want to ask them to. As many questions along with this session will go on. This is for you guys. So please open out your hearts and souls. This is the time. The experts are all here and they are here for just the one person, and that is you. So please do exercise those fingers, write the questions. And with that, I pass the baton on to VC, that is Vivek Chadda, for the next section. Go ahead, Vivek. Thank you.
All right. So now we're going to open the Q&A. We already have received a lot of questions here. So I'm going to start, and we are going to try and best answer the question. I'm going to direct the question to whom it should be concerned. If the name is mentioned, I will take that name. If not, then I will use my judgment. All right. So, Sarabjeet, the first question is for you. The question is from Amit Khatri. The question is, I want to ask Mr. Sarabjeet, could you please share some more light on the cover letter? What are the aspects a recruiter looks at?
Sure. Amit, thank you for that very, very pertinent question. I think what happens is, let's understand that when you are putting up a cover letter to your resume, what you're trying to do is motivate the recruiter to look at your candidature. Now, why would somebody look at you if you write in your cover note that I've got 17 years experience, 21 years experience, and I'm from this school, and this is what the organization I'm working for, and I'm coming from a supply chain management or IT or whatever domain. So generally, one tends to write that. Instead, as I always say, that do your research, do your homework, get some kind of a pain point which you can address in the cover letter itself. It can be very crisp, ideally just 3 points, that this is what I am excited about because your organization ranks here in this aspect. I've done some research and I find that these are the areas that you're looking at improving. And I have already demonstrated this by achieving this. Just very crisp, but addressing the business pain points of that particular organization or the job, which means you got to do a lot of research. It cannot happen without research. So talking to customers, talking to people, when I tell people, they say so much. I said, yeah, because then only will the recruiter really look at your entire candidature, which is the beginning. That is your resume and your cover letter. So I'm not interested as a recruiter if you're just telling me about yourself. You tell me about me. You tell me what you can do for me. You tell me what you did as an exercise, as research. Get that aspect into the so-called cover letter. I prefer calling it the pitch letter because that is what it pitches your candidature. So these are the points. So just core focus on business points, find the connect so that the recruiter is motivated to open the resume and read it.
Sure. Thank you, Sarabjeet. I am trying to look for the questions. There are too many questions here. Okay. This question is for Shruti. Shruti, as a DI expert, what's your point of view on this COVID being a great leveler in terms of offering more women a chance to get to work remotely, which they may have had to give up just to balance responsibilities? This question, yes.
Who's this question from, Vivek?
I'm just trying to read. Just a second. Sorry.
No worries. Great question, actually, because
This question, sorry, is from Mr. Ramesh Kumar Vina Kamula.
okay. Thank you so much for this wonderful question, Mr. Ramesh. We have been having discussions on this in the D&I community, that one of the big reasons why women were being not getting enough opportunities was the focus on presence at work and the lack of organizations being close to flexibility. So yes, this may open up a huge amount of jobs for them, because we suddenly see the acceptance of virtual working and work from home opportunities across industries. So yes, it may just open. I think the overall focus now will have to be for organizations to be more output focused than presence focus, is what I said when I initially as well. So it's not as much about how many hours you're at work. So yeah, let's see how it goes. I mean, we'll have to take one day at a time as it goes.
Sure. Okay. Thank you, Shruti. Okay, there was a question for Jitender. I'm just trying to locate that question. Okay, here is a generic question.
I see it. It's right here, Vivek. It says, Jitendra, there are students who are in their final placements. What is your advice for all of us? Students in the final year of placements, and what would your advice be for all of them, please? Thank you, Jitendra.
Yeah, so I think all of us kind of, answered this question in some or the other form. I'll try and kind of summarize. My last point essentially was, all about loans, right? So people who are in the final year, I think if some of them have education loan, that is the first thing that they should look at. And there are quite a lot of technicalities which people didn't know, if they have an education loan, because, it's slightly difficult to get a job in this market, right? So what do you do because you have a financial burden? There is a moratorium which you can actually use, which is up to 1 year, or 6 months after you land up in a job, whichever is earlier. So I think final year students who are not being able to explore an opportunity can actually use this technicality, first thing. Second is taking a lot of cue from, what Sarabjeet just mentioned. This is time to kind of, brush up, and create that pitch for yourself. Because I still understand that the market is the toughest for these young minds, right? That's the second aspect. Third is we have to continue investing in ourselves, right? Because a degree is not the end of it, right? If we are not being able to kind of land up in a job, I would say that still try and invest in yourself. There are a lot of courses, whether it's from Coursera, edX, Udemy, etc. Do those certifications, which comes handy when the market is up and back, right? So I would say that, these are the three most essential things, but the market is still challenging. So taking a cue from what Aditya mentioned, be at peace for some time. It is not going to change, let's say in 1 quarter or 2 quarters. As Shruti also mentioned, the economy will certainly come back, but I think it will take about a couple of quarters. So these are times where we have to stay focused. We have to stay controlled. Again, going back to my analogy of, putting a lot of hard work when there are a lot of distractions around. Play for the long term, not for the T20. That's my advice.
Sure. Thank you, Jitender. The next question is from Mohan. At which level within the org do you see the most churn, and what would you recommend to that level? This question is from Kavita Neep.
Thanks for the question, Kavita. So I think it's hard to predict what level there would be a churn, right? I mean, every organization comprises of a set of people with different skills and crafts designed to come together and deliver a particular project, right? And deliver a particular task. So common, and where there would be attrition, where there would be churn isn't something which is very predictable. But most organizations have a pyramid. You have people, you have a similar set of, a smaller set of niche skills, senior level skills at the top, and then you have a larger set of generic skills and maybe fresh engineers and some middle level engineers at the bottom. So law of permutations and law of averages, you would have a lot more open positions at, say, a mid-level or a lower level than at a top level. But then and again, as we all pointed out earlier, not that there aren't jobs at each level, right? There are jobs at each level. It's just that the market scenario is posing a difference now with a lot more of applicants than the jobs. And I think that is where showing value to the application that you're actually applying for will make a big difference. Plus, try and find those right opportunities. Try and see if you can have a referral who can actually provide you an insight to the organization, an introduction to the organization where you can actually demonstrate value. So I think these are some of those tips which would be helpful in this scenario. And there will be attrition at all levels, right? I mean, it's not that every organization will stop hiring, or just because we have made offers, and that doesn't mean that everybody will come and join us. There will always be people who will decline offers with us and take on some other positions. So we will still have to refill those positions, etc.
Sure, thank you. This is a generic question, and I'm going to ask Aditya to answer it. The future of mechanical engineering fresher students after enhancing skills, how to approach industries as they have no vacancies in their official career website. I am not very sure if you're getting the question right. This question is from Mayur Palagopal.
Okay, so I'm assuming they're saying that there is no scope of growth for people in the mechanical side as companies.
That's right. So they want to switch the new industries, other industries.
So let me just tie it down to one of the other questions somebody had also asked about the industries which is also on the rise, right? That was also one of the questions. So see, there are some industries which are to some extent slowing down by virtue of consumer not consuming anything, as simple as that, right? So you will have some industries which will slow down, right? Now, from a mechanical standpoint, you need to look at, I don't know if this person is in the final year, or I think he or she mentioned anything. No.
Pardon me?
Has the person mentioned that this person is in the final year?
No, the person hasn't.
Okay. So assuming, so assuming, look at, even if you look at mechanical engineer, there is quite a bit of, from a technology standpoint, you have IoT and few other things which will grow from a technology standpoint, right? Automobile industry is slow for a period of time for the next couple of months, but it will, once we start going back to normal, the consumption will re-happen at a period of pace, right? For anybody who's in this industry or somebody who's going to pass out or not passing out, maybe in the second year, third year, one recommendation is do pro bono internship with some of these companies, because they will not say no, right? For you to learn and understand, because that experience will count for you irrespective wherever you go. And none of the larger companies will say no if you do it pro bono. Understand the aim is to learn, right? And the second part is also to make sure that you are honing those skills in the area, because even if you look at automobile, there are a lot of areas within automobile which is on the rise. You need to pick up those areas and move in that direction, right? While the industry is slowed down, remember for a fact that so you need to make sure that what you do at this period of time is pick up some work. There are sites, if I'm not wrong, there are some sites which give pro bono internship work, freelancing work. Please land up doing those kind of work so that you gain the experience. And when the economy picks up, you are in the right phase of mind to move it in the right direction. Yeah, Jitender, you wanted to add?
Please, Jitender.
Yeah, just adding to a specific answer to the question, which asked about the industries, right? I think Aditya is right. While there are some industries, which are not consuming, quite a lot, there are certain industries which have come up, during this downturn as opportunities, right? I can mention a couple of them. For example, gaming has become huge, right? While the entire globe is locked down, right? People need a lot of, I would say engagement, right? So that's where gaming industry has really kind of skyrocketed. Communications is another one. We are live on Zoom. That's one of the most significant example, and I think one of the panel also spoke about. So I would say, these are some of the industries, who have started hiring. Not to kind of forget the essential services, startups or industries, right? While there is a lot of lockdown, but still, people have to consume quite a lot of things. Whether you talk about grocery or you talk about food delivery, there was a little bit of slowdown because the infrastructure was not ready. And by the time government and everyone rallied around it, we see a huge amount of spurting growth. So I think these are some of the industries who are I would say actively hiring and going big as well. Another example is the OTT or let's say the entertainment industry, right? We all are consuming content. We just spoke about Netflix. So there are certain industries who are still trying to make use of this opportunity. It will continue to happen, and once we are back, we will see all the more investments and growth in healthcare and infrastructure when we are back. So that's my 2 bit.
Just adding on to Jitender, the simple way of when you get up to when you sleep, the things which you consume, things which you touch is going to grow. As simple as that.
Yeah.
All right. So I will allow Aditya to come and take the baton and ask a few questions on the Q&A panel.
Hi everyone, I missed my intro. So I run a report digital design agency, and I first attended the LinkedIn local, the offline event, the face-to-face event, and since last October, I'm associated with their regular program as a creative and digital partner. So let's see the questions. So this is a very interesting question from an anonymous attendee, that his wife took a break last year, and after that she's a content writer and a social media manager. She was doing freelancer during that time, and now she joined back last November. Her package was 6 lakh, and now because of this current situation, she along with her entire team has been laid off by the startup. So now she's getting job calls from the Naukri, but everybody is asking for a package negotiation. So I think this will be the case with many. So what is your suggestion from all the panelists? Anybody can pick this question.
Anybody wants to take up that question? Yes, sir, please.
What's the person's name who's asking? Aditya?
Anonymous.
Sorry?
Anonymous.
Achha, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So if somebody's taken a break, come to a job, and then now again because of the situation is being laid off, sorry about it, because that's the state for many people right now, and many of them are kind of struggling. It's important that when it comes to negotiation, I would say right now, since you've got back from a break and then you with great difficulty got something going at a package of 6 lakhs, don't lose sight, don't miss the woods for the trees. Don't compromise on the role, don't compromise on the work that you're going to do. So if there is genuinely, many times what happens, you just get calls. Now those calls might be just because there is a vacancy somewhere, but there is no replacement to actually you doing a proper assessment whether that role first of all suits you and will it give you a little long-term career as compared to what you are currently in a situation, because you've just come back from a break and it's hardly been 3 months and then you again been laid off. So if there is a need to adjust, or I would say adjust, not really compromise, adjust in the salary package, provided you see that there is record of the company, history of the company, find out more about the company. And before you say a no, I would still say give it a thought, because it's just started. So it's not that the first job you have to take up. That's one. Second, you can also look at some opportunity if you are getting any, and if it really matches and hones your skills at a little compromise for some more time, that's okay. Because it is going to take time. It's not that you will wait and suddenly in 3, 4, 5 months, you'll start finding that you're getting the right kind of job. So if you are genuinely getting calls, genuinely, do a lot of homework from the employer's perspective, find out, and if it really matches your skills and you get an opportunity, a little adjustment is all right. You can do that.
So my two bits to this is, okay, so if the person, whoever is put, could have actually given a little more detail, that would have been a little more easier for us, maybe the total years of experience and everything else. Content writing is a good area to be in if you look at, and specifically if you look at technology or any other company, there are content writers which are required, the person to be in. One simple ask here is, while compensation can be a driving factor, is it how important is it a driving factor when it's at home? She needs to make peace with the kind of work she's going to land up doing. Compensation is not, compensation is market driven. I'm being very honest. How the market and the economy is doing at that period of time, you can always make up money, but the experience and the content, if she's getting the right what she wants to do, I think she can go ahead and do that. And the beauty about content writing is you can parallelly do freelance content writing irrespective, right? So this is my input.
Yeah, I so agree, Aditya. I think the organization we work with and the job profile we have adds far more to the overall package and the resume that we have. Compensation is completely market driven, so I don't think that should be the deciding factor.
Now the next question is from Parul. She is in L&D department, and she's saying that I am into upskilling of for the corporate executives. In present scenario, the first budget to get hit would be the L&D. What should be the plan and suggestion for a startup writer? So, for a L&D department, what kind of courses, what kind of things they should do?
Who is this for, Aditi?
It's for everyone. She has not mentioned anybody.
So any one person who would like to take this up, please? Then we can take more questions from the panel. Anybody? I
can, if nobody can, nobody will. L&D is in a specialized area like recruiting, right? And what you need to also understand is, from a budgeting standpoint, yes, you're right. And the other problem is, if you're working with a client of them, they will try and do it more in-house, right? But this is an area where you can still work with the client and do a lot of work online, right? People need to move from doing classroom to more online, irrespective, even if they're not working with the current client, they need to still work with them on saying that, hey, these are the couple of things which we are doing. This is the repository of information. While we still have the connect, can we continue working on these areas, right? And also see if you can build the connect with the larger employees in the organization of saying that these are subsidized free courses, online courses which we do, right? And then target that industry, right? And remember for a fact that, you know, it's a very simple task of identifying, and I think so that's what Jitender also spoke about, looking at industry which will grow, right? To pivot to the other angle of saying that maybe this industry which I'm targeting or training is not the one which is going to grow, right? Maybe I should try and look at, you know, wellness, pharma, you know, counseling, government, e-commerce companies, gaming, right? You have online telecommunication, right, which is growing extensively, right? If you look at the usage of our phones, it's gone off the roof, right? From where it was long time back to where it is today. And AR and VR, right? These are areas which are growing. So you need to maybe pivot to these directions. Is my recommendation.
Yeah, and if I can add, I think learning and development is possibly an area which will find a lot of investment by many organizations as we go into this future, right? Because this is a new normal which is emerging. There's a lot of virtual experiences coming in. People are getting used to it. People need help. I think people really need to understand how to change the way traditional learning and development has been delivered till date, right? Till date, it's been classroom trainings or cohorts or closed room, conference room, personal coachings, etc. Now it's all changing. It's virtual. Now, how do you adapt to that? There has to be skill sets which has to be developed by both L&D professionals as well as the recipients. Today, I think there are advisories for even the colleges and schools to adapt online coaching. How do you get into that whole mode? I think that requires a ton of investment in just terms of actually getting every one of us to come in and be. In fact, just being on this forum itself, I think we all need to be trained, right? I mean, it's not that we all got trained at some point of time before we came in. Although we've been using this platform from a couple of years, but it wasn't like day one we could say that, okay, we can come in and start having the etiquette that it requires to be in this forum. So I think there is going to be a lot of work which will come in the L&D space. You just need to be looking for it and just try and as Aditya mentioned, there could be many opportunities from a freelancing standpoint and also provide those options.
Yeah.
Yes, Jitender.
Yeah. So I think, it primarily depends on two factors, I feel, because I wouldn't say that, learning and development, every organization has to, go through the acts, right? It is primarily depending on the context of the organization. That's the first thing. Second one is also the capacity of the organization to look at the cost, right? Because some organizations would want to look at customer support as a cost rationalization element, right? The other organization might look at learning and development. So I think an organization is primarily driven by these two factors to be able to kind of identify, do we cut cost on L&D there or no. So that's the most important element I feel organizations kind of look at. I mean, there's no fundamental, I would say, theme cutting across industries, because I was reading a report somewhere. It said that based on the data in the previous recessions in 2001 and 2008, is every single percentage point drop in GDP amounted to about 4% investment in learning and development. Something which Mohan also was mentioning, because there is still a lot of need, right? I mean, I read a very interesting story. For when someone is not fighting a war, what are they doing? They're actually cleaning up their weapons and sharpening it. So I think that's the way I look at this.
I think organizations should look for micro-learning opportunities. Those are the smaller options and cost-effective as well that you can focus on, both for functional programs and for behavioral programs. So maybe that is one option that you can have you can think about and approach your organization and leadership with.
Aditi, all yours.
Yeah, so I'm just merging two questions. One is, in today's scenario, how effective are the psychometric tests in helping recruitment? And as a recruiter point of view, and as a candidate point of view, what mental preparation is required?
Who is this question for, and who is it for?
Vipul Sisodia is asking for the importance of psychometric test, and one anonymous attendee is asking for the mental preparation for interviews.
Right. Anybody specific you would like to address it to, or
it's open for everyone.
I think Mohan is the best guy to tackle this. It's an assessment question.
Yes, I think psychometric tests is a tool actually to go through the assessing people, right? So there will be different kind of tools. There'll be different organizations who will prefer different types of tools to assess people, and I think they're all here to stay. I think nothing is going away. Many of them are important. I think it's about ultimately. I think the way we think about it is, what are those outcomes that we're going to go after when we're looking at assessing somebody, right? I think that's the clarity that organizations have when choosing some certain set of tools. What is important from a candidate's perspective was the next question. I think it's about, how can you genuinely showcase yourself? How can you build trust? How can you make sure that somebody really understands at the other level that, okay, so you have done it. So within our assessment philosophy, we follow something called show, don't tell. We say that, can you just show us how would you do this, versus just telling me a story that, okay, this is how something was done in the past. Because your past story of what worked may not be a true indicator of future success. And hence, in a simulated environment, if you could actually showcase your thought process, and I think thought leadership, thought process, problem solving skill sets, and building that genuine connection is going to be very important when you're sitting in front of an interviewer.
I think Sarabjeet can also add to that question, because I feel part Mohan and part Sarabjeet would be like a holistic answer.
Sure.
So go for it, please.
Sure. I think, the interview part, I'd like to add there, because as Mohan said very, very rightly, that you demonstrate to us. Am I audible?
Yes, you are, Sarabjeet. We can hear.
So I think what Mohan said is very pertinent, very relevant, that show me the thought process in a situation. And I'm noticing that most of the employers nowadays are giving you a kind of a project to come back with. So there are many people who come to us also saying that, how much do I reveal? What do I do? So in principle, you got to showcase to them by demonstrating your thought process, taking your experience of the past, your learning, and how you will adapt to that particular situation. So the point is not whether you've proven something in the past, and as Mohan rightly said, it is not necessary that in another context you might be able to deliver the same result. But I think it's the thought process, which is something which, again, I come back to one of my favorite areas, which is research. How much you can research the organization and then go ahead and demonstrate in a behavioral interview, I think that will be making you stand out as a candidate.
Okay, thank you, Sarabjeet, for that. Over to you, Aditi.
Yeah, I think now I'm done with my questions. Over to you, Amit, for the next questions. Thank you. Amit?
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. The question is coming out, which is, there are about 5 odd questions which are generally on the same theme. So I'm taking up the one which has been given by an anonymous attendee. I'll request most of the attendees to please give out your name so that you can get the most benefit by direct advice. But the specific question is, what advice are we looking for that we should give to college students in the final year who are looking for placements / internships in the near future, and which sectors are the ones which they should go for? I would be directing this question to Sarabjeet.
Sure. I think people who are in the final year, and I think Aditya has already touched on this point, that internships will be available with many organizations. Don't get stuck on to how much you're getting paid right now if you're looking at internship. And if you're talking of final year's placements, it would come to primarily you looking at certain sectors where you are inclined to grow. So first, it's important that what are your areas of expertise, or what's your area of interest. If you have done any internships, and if you have found a connect, and if you find that industry still has scope, go ahead with that. If it doesn't, look at all your transferable skills, list them down, try and organize your transferable skills and see all allied industries which will today also hire. Like we have already, all my co-panelists have already spoken about the OTT platform. There is agriculture, there is healthcare, there is your communication, telecommunication. All these kind of organizations will continue to hire. It's not that they will not. Some of them, e-commerce, delivery of groceries, all these. So look at what your skills are. As I said, if you are not in a position to get something which you had thought you had done an internship with, but that industry is not really right now hiring, go to some allied industry. But for that, you need to know your transferable skills, your passion, and you have got experience of, say, even 20 years since the time you were born till now. What have you learned in those 20 years? So don't take it that you don't have experience. The moment you shift your focus to transferable skills, your experience will come out. So don't get stuck with domain skills only. Don't think that I'm a finance guy and I've done my MBA or whatever post-graduation in a particular field. Doesn't matter, because the things have changed dramatically. So don't get disheartened on that. That is what I would say.
Thank you. The next question is from Shushma Varadraj. It is directed to Aditya. she's asking whether it will be a suitable choice for a person with, say, 12 to 15 years of experience to do some pro bono work to gain experience. And in her case, it's saying that she is a financial management. She's been into financial management, and after 7 years, moved into sales. And now she would like to be a part of a tech channel partnership. Your views on that?
Okay. Okay, so there are two parts to it. One, the person is part of the financial management industry, so I'm assuming one of the BFSI companies, more towards the banking. So here is my input. One, if you want to move to technology, and I think that's what the ask is, right? So remember it in sales, it's all about selling. While the industry will matter, and a lot of people when they interview say we prefer guys from product, and then you have people who come back and say, hey, I want this guy from this particular institute. These are all a lot of people who look for different color and all that. That doesn't matter to some extent, but there are very few people who would take the intelligent risk on it. I'm being very honest, right? The simple ask here is for you to understand if you want to move from a financial organization in sales to a technology organization in sales. First, have a mentor who's in this industry already for you to get the skills to understand what is required to do that job, right? Secondly, read the job description and see what are the skills I have vis-a-vis the skills required to do this job. Identify the gaps, right? If there are any, right? One would be clear understanding of industry, right? Secondly, if you are already in the financial side, it's very easy for you to target companies which have BFSI verticals in the organization because there's some understanding for you from a financial standpoint, right? Do that. And end of the day, also, end of the day, it's all about what you bring to the table and how persistent you are. Remember, it's sales, right? How persistent you are to get your foot on the door, right? There are, I know, incidents where people have gone ahead and written to the people who had sales of saying that this is what I've done. This is my video. I can sell the product back to you while I don't have the experience in this area. So sales is all about tenacity and ability to convince the person that you know and you can deliver, right? A long answer, but I thought this would be relevant.
Thank you. The next question is from Shrikant Vijay Kumar. It is directed to Jitender. He's also asking about a change in his field of specialty. What he's saying is he's a postgraduate in physics, but as of now, he's discovered that he's very keen on sports and healthy living. So how should he proceed in this chosen career? I think he's taken on from your exercise points there.
So I think incidentally, I'm also a physics honors. I also did sports and I still do. And, I'm into HR now. So I think, primarily, it's a function of a couple of things which the gentleman needs to be pretty clear of. So I think these are certain times, wherein people start looking at it, from two perspectives. One is, do I need to stick with my current career? Or second is, do I make my hobbies, my current career? So I think there's no right answer to that. First, the individual has to kind of very clearly evaluate, from a career perspective, is it really, where I am, where I want to be, right? In terms of, let's say, compensation, in terms of the kind of role, and in terms of, the kind of credentials I want to have. I would really advise that, someone shouldn't start from scratch right now. I don't have the details in terms of the age profile and the kind of experience. I would say that start small, pick it up like a hobby, right? Try and continue doing it, let's say on weekends, on a part-time basis or on a freelance basis. I mean, we are in a world where, we are largely connected now. And I'll give you a couple of examples. If you go to Instagram, if you go to TikTok, right? There are people, who have a different career, but their hobbies have become their professions, right? They have started working small on it, part-time. There are certain careers like influencers, which are started coming in, into the economy. Whether you talk about marketing, you talk about celebrity management, you talk about fitness, you'll see a lot of gym guys, you see, a lot of fitness trainers. So I think, this gentleman needs to first sit down and clearly identify, whether, for part A is career, the second is, more like a passion. Does he wants to converge both of these, or does he want to kind of independently walk, on either of them? And I think if the answer, is pretty clear to him, he should take small steps, try and use some of these platforms, leverage a lot of technology, build a huge amount of network, and then become an influencer in this scale to be able to kind of move to a career.
Thank you. The next question is directed to Shruti. There's an anonymous question here, but a very pertinent one. How would you address a gap in your CV due to COVID-19, either due to being laid off or not being able to do the opportunity that you wanted to do?
Good question. And this is what I had said. This is not something which is happening to just me or you or India or, one part of the world. This is something which is happening globally. So a gap in the profile, I don't think is a big deal right now. And in fact, it's high time, I think, Indian market starts opening itself to gap in resumes anyways. You don't see that anywhere else in the world. That focus on gap in the CVs is specific to the Indian market. And I'm saying this having worked across countries. So it's high time people start opening up to it. But having said that, I think this is something, since it's been happening, it has happened across the globe. I don't think a gap should make a difference. Something all of us have been saying is upskill yourself, enroll in courses, and do something to really learn. If your CV shows that you've spent time learning something, if your CV shows that you've spent time upskilling yourself, then people understand anyways that you weren't just sitting and waiting for the pandemic to pass. You were using that time to really add to yourself. I think that attitude is what really matters in the CV. When we look at CVs, it's not, we don't look at gaps. We look at the attitude when we are interviewing a person. So I think your attitude, how you utilize the time when all of this was happening, will make a far more difference at the time of recruitment.
Thank you. The next question is from Vikas Bansal. I would be directing it to Mohan. What he's asking is that even when the normalcy returns, will many of the permanent jobs that we see today be completely replaced by a work from home or a gig economy? Your views on that?
Hard to predict. I guess there will be a balance which will emerge. We don't know whether it's the world that we knew in Feb which will remain, or the world that we know today will remain. But I think there will be a balance which will emerge. I think time will tell us. I think I'll just go back to the statement that I made when I started off is about adaptability. I think the way we adapt to things, like for example, I can share an example. I think one of the things that I used to cherish every day is to walk up with my friend and with my team together and have a cup of coffee and have breakfast early in the morning, just so that we build time and just talk, have a light chat and come back. Today, what we do is we bring our coffee cups and do it through Zoom, right? We have one meeting every week where we don't do anything else but just chit chat. We just talk about what movies we are watching, what are we doing, what's happening in our lives, etc. So I think it's just about adapting yourselves and how do we come back and look at this new normal. I think the situations will emerge. I think who will be victorious is the people who can be adaptable.
Okay, yeah, Jitender, please.
Yeah, so just to add to what Mohan just mentioned, I think it depends on the growth versus efficiency environment, right? So especially when there is a growth economy or growth environment, then organizations tends to look at their fixed cost structure a little differently. While may still vary for industries and organizations, but for during times like this, where a lot of organizations are essentially looking at efficiencies, they tend to look fixed costs very, very differently. And hence, a lot of organizations start looking at gig economy or liquid workforce or contingent workforce, because that is something which doesn't give you a huge amount of liability on your balance sheet, right? And also provide a lot of flexibility in terms of addressing for quite a lot of business essentials without taking huge amount of stuff on your balance sheet. So I think it is primarily a function of the economy, and second is how fast organizations are being able to come back to aligning with the economy.
Thank you.
Just one thing. One thing which we realized here is 80% of the workforce can work from home. Just an input, right? That itself talks about the flexibility which we have, and thanks to the traffic and the pollution, you're right. And whoever asked the question, things will change. but not at that pace, but things will change. We will relook at the way we look at efficiency, look at infrastructure costs. Remember for a fact that a lot of your infrastructure costs are right now getting saved. So a lot of things, but sorry, just a quick input.
So I think,
Yes.
in fact, on a lighter side, Aditya, I feel, quite a lot of myth around work from home has been busted. Because I think initially when we used to talk about work from home, we used to talk about flexibility. We used to equate work from home and flexibility. But I mean, if I look at myself and if I look at, a lot of my friends, I think it's not about the time, right? It's not about flexibility. It's a lot about the intent. It's a lot about discipline, and it's a lot about practicing, the outcomes. And those are some of the big myths, which I have seen getting busted, when I'm talking to, people in the industry. There's a huge and a massive shift. A lot of organizations have started realizing that they have become more trusting. People suddenly have, become more, more like owners, right? So I think, it's a wonderful shift, unintentionally or intentionally, but I think quite a lot of realizations.
Right. Thank you for that, Jitender. Now it's over to me for the rest of the questions. So this question is from Sushma Varadraj for Sarabjeet. Sarabjeet, you said that, while sharing your views that it is all right to sort of negotiate, not negotiate. So this is directly about negotiating with companies based on the salary slab than revealing a previous salary. So how does one go about it, and what can be do and what cannot be done? What should be done, what should not be done? This is from Sushma Varadraj for Sarabjeet.
Okay, thank you, Sushma. Again, a very pertinent and important question. See, frankly, there will be, as Mohan also said, we will all have to learn to adapt. Things are changing, like as we are speaking, things are changing. Question about salary negotiation, whether your previous salary, whether you need to reveal it, you don't need to reveal it. Everything boils down to what is the value you get to the organization. In any market condition, if I don't see value in you, there is no point in discussion about salary. So I think get one thing in priority is that how do you increase your own value with the prospective employer, and that will come by your understanding your own skills, the expertise that you get, and what have been your achievements, and how you can customize that to every employer. The moment you start showing value, the salary part, whether I should reveal my previous salary or no, all those can be a component of your value. So assuming somebody says that, okay, what was your salary? If I understand the question right, there is also maybe you want to know whether you want to reveal that and whether that should be taken as a benchmark or no. I assume that would be one part of the question. If that's the case, do a lot of research on the industry that you're applying for. Do a lot of research today. It is available. Just look at some jobs that are there in the same industry. What are they paying? Look at a range. So arrive at a particular range from say this to this, which is after doing your homework, you will get a range that that particular industry and certain companies in that industry will pay. Accordingly, you pitch yourself. So once you establish, but there is no replacement to you first getting your value. Once you've got your value and somebody asks you, it all depends on how you can always offer a range. Don't offer any absolute figures. It all depends at what stage of interview you are being asked there. Means if it's a question that they are discussing an offer with you and trying to negotiate, again focus on the value and try and see what the employer has in mind. Let them tell you that this is what we can pay, and accordingly you will be able to devise your answer. If I have understood the question correctly, this is what my input is.
Thank you, Sarabjeet, for that. I guess Sushma will be reaching out to you on LinkedIn as well directly if she needs more input on that. With that, brings me to the next question. This is for you, Mohan, and a lot of people over here would like to know what are your views for candidates to start from scratch, from zero. What do you think should be done? What is the approach? If somebody is at, say, a 5 to 6 year level, and because of this, everything has been undone, then how to start from the scratch, please? Thank you.
I think I would say I'll place this advice for both the college grads who are just passing out, as well as people who are a few years experience trying to start from scratch, right? I think you need to go back to your fundamentals and try and understand what are your strengths, right? The work that you've been doing, where does that your colleagues who work with you in similar kind of projects or similar kind of work that you've been doing, and where are they currently working? People who may have been predecessors in their job who are a couple of years older to you, experienced, people who passed out a few years back, etc. Try and map out the organizations that they work with, right? Try and understand whether your value, whether the work that you do adds value in those organizations. Build out those list of organizations, research them, see how you can actually add value and see how you could be a good fit in those organizations. Seek referrals from people whom you know, showcase the work that you do, and start looking at building those genuine applications to the jobs that you would want to and the careers that you would like to start with, right? And for people in colleges, I think some of, and going back to one of the earlier questions as well, maybe your presumption or your fear is that maybe you might not see as many companies coming to your campus, and hence the question, right? Otherwise, if you are a final year student, you will have people coming into your college, you get placed. Now, the fear with you is that you may not have people, but nevertheless, same approach. Look at people, look at the organizations who've been predominantly coming to your college in the past few years. Many of your seniors are placed in those companies. Draw out a peer set of some of those companies, right? Because if there is somebody from your college with a similar kind of skill sets who picked up from a organization, it's likely that that peer set would also be a good fit for your candidature. Start looking at who work there, whom you know there, and start building that genuine connections and showcase what you can offer to that organization and start making inroads. I think you just need to go in a very concerted, deep approach of how you're going to research and approach.
Thank you for that, Mohan. My next question is directed to both Aditya and Jitender, please. And Mohan, maybe if we have time, you could join in as well. But this is more to do with all the freshers and the students here. A lot of offers have been rescinded, permanent job offers, internship offers. So what should one do in this kind of a situation? This is a really important question because quite a few people are in this kind of boat at the moment. So being from companies like MoEngage and Informatica and Intuit, what should one do when they are in doldrums of this sort, when either fresh offers, joining offers or internship offers have been rescinded? So I'll start with you, Aditya, please, then Jitender, and probably then Mohan. And this will be my second last question. We will take one more, and then we'll take the next on. Adi, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And obviously, this is a question. This is which a lot of people will have to deal with. Let's be very honest, right? My recommendation and thoughts is look at what's there in the market, right? Connect with the industry, which is growing, right? It's not. Remember a fact: the organization are doing it because they don't have another option, right? In the right sense of mind, nobody would want to do that, right? I'm not questioning the organizations which are doing that, but there are a lot of organizations also deferring it for a period of time, right? So my thinking is very simple for people who are freshers. There are a couple of sites, I don't want to quote them, but they give you a view of what are the openings for freshers in those industries. So the simple way, and I think we all touched upon, is if supposing I'm the fresher and I'm looking for a job and I had an offer from another company and they've rescinded it, I will try and look at all the growing industries. Okay, try and reach out to those folks on LinkedIn of saying that, hey, this is what has happened with me, because this is a state which everybody is aware of it, right? This is that is what has happened with me. Would you be interested in my candidature? You need to start reaching out to the industry, have a focused approach on reaching out to them directly through LinkedIn. Secondly is tap onto your alumni network. You will have seniors who would be in these companies, right? Whom you can tap out and say, I am looking to move in this direction. Would you have something else moving in this? And I think Shruti also spoke about the fact of making sure that you consistently upskill at that period of time, right? You continuously, if you're supposing you're moving towards big data example in technology, I'm assuming a fact that you are doing some course on Coursera or something else to say that this is the reason for me to move in this direction, right? So customize your view, have a very targeted approach on looking at very few industries, which you know for a fact will grow, and also bear for a fact that it will take time, right? Please be rest assured, don't get disheartened. It doesn't happen overnight. People will respond after a period of time, and hopefully we'll move in the right direction. So, Jitender.
Jitender, please go ahead. Thank you.
So let me try and answer this considering a practical view. And I'll try and address this from two sides. One is from a student perspective, the other one is from an organization perspective. Right. So this situation is something which is very difficult. Right. No one anticipates such situations, and these are beyond control of everyone, including the organization as well as the students. Right. So organizations have fundamentals in place. Right. So it's a lot about survival. It's a lot about looking at these cases a little differently. Right. No one wants to do this out of intent. That's the first bit. There are a lot of things which organizations can do in certain cases. While I understand there's a hard call which is being taken, organizations should definitely try and outplace these students. I think as a moral responsibility, organizations should definitely do that. While the situation may be slightly tricky, but I think there are definitely organizations who are hiring and sectors who are hiring, and rather than a student kind of exploring the entire ocean, people who are already there in that industry, have more connects and they have better credibility. So organizations should definitely try and kind of, extend that support to be able to kind of outplace these students. That's number one. Now, coming from a student perspective, right? What can a student do? They should definitely try and have a conversation with the organization, right? Try and kind of, look at exploring alternative options in terms of, when the offer is being revoked. The first one could be, can there be a joining deferment, right? You should definitely explore, if that opportunity is available or if that option, can be explored. That's number one. Second is certainly a renegotiation, right? Because the reason why organizations go for this unfortunate hard decision is also primarily because of cost, right? So at that point in time, students needs to be more flexible, irrespective of the institute that they come from, right? There has to be a more realistic and pragmatic thought in terms of, can I also support the organization in renegotiating my own compensation, right? So I think these are some of the things which both organizations and students have to do. And I hope there are some talent acquisition and recruitment professionals also, on this webinar thinking, there, I mean, while we look at these cases, there's quite of morality, questioning on, for these decisions or animosity, which is being created, whether you say thanks to PR or let's say, anything else. But I think fact of the matter is, everyone is a stakeholder in the economy, right? Everyone is impacted, be it student, be it an institution, because they have to provide, let's say 100% job guarantees as publicized by certain institutions and the organization as well. The idea is that how do all of us understand the gravity of the situation, try each and every bit, whatever best that we can do, whether it's an organization or a student or an institution. So I think these are my two bits. I feel that every stakeholder has to kind of understand the situation and try and explore alternative options to be able to sail this through.
Okay, thank you, Jitender. Mohan, would you like to add something to that, or shall I just take one last question and we'll have to call it a day because we are getting on time. And I would suggest the next course of action to the attendees. So if you have anything, please let's hear it. Thank you.
A last minute share out. So I think what I would recommend or suggest to the students is that stay close to people, stay close to people, stay close to your fellow students who've been placed in other organizations, stay close to some of your seniors. It is more likely that if a recruiter has to fill a position at the last minute because somebody declined an offer, they would go back to the people whom they had made an offer with, right? It's because they're more closer to the work, they understand what kind of people is required, so they would recommend, they would go with those recommendations. So hence, just stay networked, stay with people, just stay close to what is happening and then look for those opportunities.
Thank you for that, Mohan. Before I sort of get on and ask the parting advice from all our panelists here, I would like to make one or 2 points again for the attendees. Attendees, please reach out to our experts over at LinkedIn with personalized notes if you want to dive deep into any of the questions. We know there have been a humongous number of questions and it is humanly impossible to take them all on board today. So apologies, but we've tried and addressed as many as we can. For the rest and specific questions, please do reach out to the experts on LinkedIn. and you can pick up the phone and talk to them, or get on a Zoom call or whatever it is that you fancy, and get those deep dives in. So which brings me to, last but not the least, parting comments or any parting advice in a couple of sentences from the panel. I would start with Sarabjeet, and I would be keeping on calling on names, and we'd come to the panelists. Thank you very much. Sarabjeet?
So I think two things. One, your mindset, I think, just take a learning from this entire episode or entire situation to handle challenges in life. Become mentally tough. That is very, very important. Second, in terms of keeping your hopes high and looking at your own candidature from the job perspective, looking at your own skills, and reinventing your entire job search approach is most critical. So don't do what you have been doing. Change that entire approach, reinvent it, and I can assure you, there is talent that is yet to be sought. Always it will be. So you will always be in demand, provided you know how to present yourself. These are my 2 bits.
Thank you, Sarabjeet. I come to you, Jitender, after this. Before that, for the attendees, we've just launched a poll as to what you thought, whether you gained something and everything else about feedback on the webinar. So it'll take only 3 seconds while you are listening to the experts, of the parting comments. Please take that time to let us know how we did and what else can we do to add value to you. So Jitender, over to you, your parting comments, please. Thank you.
Yeah, so something which I am trying to do, in my capacity to help is, I'm trying to mentor, a lot of people who are reaching out already to me on LinkedIn. There are a lot of organizations, who have unfortunately laid off. I'm trying to support, those individuals. So one suggestion and advice, with open arms is, if you need any sort of advice, please feel free to follow me, connect me. I'll try and kind of, explore my networks and whatever best that I can do, in order to help you. So that's number one. Second is in terms of, the advice, I always feel that, life is a test cricket. So I think stay focused, toil hard, and I think, patience is the key.
Thank you very much, Jitender. Shruti, over to you for your parting comments, please. Just a moment, you're muted. There you go. Yep. No, hang on. Yep.
Yeah, done. As I've been saying that these are unprecedented times, it's a moment of crisis. In middle of hand washing and quarantine and isolation, I know it's very easy to have a sense of fear. But perspective is the biggest antidote to fear and spiraling thoughts. Crisis can be best managed by data instead of emotions. So look at things very, very pragmatically, use data. There is enough out there to help you get over the crisis in terms of, whether it's job, employment, what to do, how to do. So look at what is readily available, read a lot, and hopefully, you'll have your answers out there. As I said, perspective is the biggest antidote, so look at that.
Thank you very much. With that, I would come to Mohan, please. Parting comments. Thank you.
Thanks, Preeti. So my advice would be that stay positive. I think this will pass. There's always light at the end of the tunnel. While I think there's a lot of good that all of us have shared, that doesn't necessarily mean that from tomorrow you start devoting 24 hours just to learn more and more, because you have to think about it from the long run. You don't want to just break down in the next 7 days or next couple of weeks. I think you need to have a balance in your life. You need to make sure that you're keeping your mind positive, keeping your mind occupied with things you love, and have a balance in things that you do, and stay positive. I think good things will follow.
Thank you for that, Mohan. That brings me to Aditya. Please share your parting comments with us, Adi. Thank you.
Thanks, Preeti. Simple inputs are: have a plan, have a very focused approach, more like a sniper approach to see what you want to do and what you want to target. Don't over reflect, but do reflect on what is required for you to do. It's a good way of we all never expected us to be in this situation, but this is a good learning for all of us. And last but not the least, hoping to see the next session to be face to face, and hoping to see Preeti and sometimes Amit here in Bangalore physically, so that we do that more face to face. But thanks.
Thank you, Aditya, for that. Absolutely, there's no replacement for a good old physical face to face. But what to do? There's a meme that comes into my mind now, and it's in Hindi. It says, 3-5 तक ज़्यादा 3-5 मत रहना, घर पे रहना. You know, that's like the WhatsApp University has been forwarding it all over. With that, thank you to all the attendees, first and foremost, for taking out a couple of hours and investing it in yourself by coming and listening to what all of us had to say here. Thank you to all the panelists that have made the effort. Thank you to my co-hosts that are right here. There's Vivek, Amit, and Aditi. Also a big thanks and cheers, go out to our partners, which is Reboot Digital for the creative and digital input, to Incubation Masters for being our virtual incubation partners, to AIC Raise for being our incubation partners, and to City Book Leaders for being our knowledge partners. So in case if there are any readers amongst us, that's the place you ought to be. With that, I would also like to touch upon the next session. There will be a LinkedIn Local India online lounge social that we are launching on Friday, which is April 17th, with our very own naughty commander Manish Tyagi. So he is going to be here, and more than likely, I think I'm going to have a glass of wine in my hand. Everybody is welcome to come and join with their own, bring your own poison kind of a thing. We'll do nothing but plain, simple, good old chit chat, because the atmosphere is still really heavy and, doom, gloom and all of that happening. So it'll be all cracking jokes and having a drink together. So that's happening on April 17th, which is a Friday. The next webinar in Career Challenges During COVID series is on following Wednesday, which is April 22. This time, the theme is about financial planning for difficult times, something that Jitender has touched upon today as well. And one of our former panelists for the first session also touched upon how important the finances are to be able to tide us, and planning really is very, very important for that. So that's about that. Once again, thank you very much. And until the next time, take care, folks, and have a very good day and evening. So thank you, attendees.
Thank you very much.
If you have not voted, please, the poll is open for like 30 more seconds. Do vote, and we'll see you next time. Vivek.
Sure. Thank you very much. Thank you all the attendees for coming and staying past the time. And thank you all the panelists for wonderful participation. A lot of questions were answered. So we haven't received so many questions ever in an event. And thank you for having the patience. Thank you for sparing the time, and we look forward to interacting with you. Attendees, please feel free to connect with us and with the panelists, and we will see you on Friday and next Wednesday. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, attendees. Slow and steady bye. Stay safe. Stay indoors, guys. So there's 45 of you still around here. At the peak, we had 101 people. At the bottom rung, we had about 71 odd still. So that's huge. And hi, that's huge. And that's really good, because that shows the kind of impact and the kind of value addition that these webinars are actually bringing to the community. So very thankful to the entire community and experts for that. Slowly and steadily, people are leaving. So bye again. And we hope to see you very soon. Right, on that note, I think we can do our own chit chat, and 35 people still there, 33. But yeah, so panel, please, we have time and time again said to them to connect with you over LinkedIn by writing that personalized note. A genuine appeal, please do help, try and help as many as you can from whatever time you can take out, because that is